Hello everyone, welcome back to our stream. Today we want to talk about education, about universities, want also to look a little bit into online education and maybe also compare it a little bit. So that's why we brought also Oleg here, who comes from the university background. So we have a little bit that side as well. And the idea for today is basically to look at the education system, because I think to some degree, visual effects, animation and games has a little bit of a different university experience than law or some other university of experiences. And for years it was always this kind of thing, is like, how relevant is it to have a bachelor degree, a master degree, and so on? Or should you just watch YouTube videos, buy some courses online and just jump into it, make a show reel and just wing it basically? And so I think that is also some things we want to talk about, also things that are important. So if you're, for example, new to this whole thing, you maybe just graduated from school or anything, or you just want to transition into this area, we want also to talk about like what is important, what are the universities, for example, teaching at the moment. Maybe, for example, is Blender currently the thing? Is that the thing that you should learn, or is it still Maya and stuff like that? So yeah, basically, let's talk about education and visual effects. Welcome to my channel. Roll the intro. Hello, my friend. My name is Alexander Richter. I'm a technical director for visual effects, animation, and games, who was fortunate enough to work on projects like Avatar 2, Monsters at Work, and the Amazing World of Gumball at world-renowned companies like Weta Digital, Framestore, and Mackevision. Hey, before we dive into our live stream today, did you know that only 28% are subscribed to this channel? We're doing this live stream every Thursday at 1 p.m. UTC, so subscribe to get notified, and let's dive into our stream today. So we are back. So, and I'm here today with, I have to put the right side here, with Oleg Fryazinov, who is associate professor at Bournemouth University and also VFX festival director and Unreal authorized instructor. Like, you have a whole line of work. So yeah,
as we say, wearing so many hats.
Exactly. So yeah, I would be happy to hear a little bit about you. Introduce yourself a little bit so people know who you are as well.
Yes. So so thank you for the introduction. I'm indeed associate professor now, but I started 20 years ago at Bournemouth University as just a small lecturer on research contracts, and then just progressed until my current position. So for those who doesn't know, Bournemouth is a relatively small town on the south of England. And at the university, we have so many different courses, but one of these courses is teaching different sides of computer graphics, games, animation, visual effects, and so on. And it's one of the oldest courses in the UK. So we started teaching computer graphics back in 1989. So obviously, I'm not from the beginning of the center, but I'm here for quite some time. So in terms of what we're teaching different elements of different topics about games, about animation, about visual effects, and everything that's in between, interactive technologies, VR, AR, and so on and so forth. So some of our courses are probably well known, or maybe more known than others. In particular, our animation courses. We got two different animation courses. One is undergraduate course. It's called Computer Animation Visual Effects. And one of postgraduate courses called 3D Computer Animation are quite known internationally. And well, we don't know what exactly led to that, but our animation courses are currently seen as fourth in the world, according to Animation Career Review. So in terms of the animation itself, the main focus for us is 3D animation. So we're not quite teaching 2D animation. We're not stopping our students to use 3D animation, but our main focus is 3D. So yeah, and as for myself, my background before I came to academia was computer games. So I was working in games companies for some time. And that experience eventually led me to keep doing what I love to do. So now I'm teaching mostly real-time technologies for not only for games, but for pretty much everything, because Unreal Engine is now used everywhere in the graphics world. And apart from that, I'm teaching different technical subjects, a bit of scripting and programming. We don't have as many students who require that, so it's about what kind of skill set we got and what kind of students we have. But I do have expertise in teaching programming and also anyway different technical subjects. That's what we and I'm trying to teach in here. And because all I mentioned about Unreal Engine, students love to have their professors to be well recognized in the industry somehow. So being certified is just a small exercise for me that allows my students to see that the courses are not being taught by someone random, but someone with expertise that is proved by the industry. And as for VFX Festival, it's a small events we're organizing here at Bournemouth. And speaking of which, the next event will be in a week and a half, so it's very close. So it's a small take on events like FMX, like VU Conference, and so on. Student-facing events when we invite lots of speakers from the industry who do the talks about the productions, who do master classes, hands-on or non-hands-on. And so we do lots of activities and events that are happening as part of the festival. So we have their own film festival since last academic year. And we got well, keeping students busy. That's our motto for this kind of events. So that's pretty much about that.
Yeah, let's start with the one that you basically kind of mentioned. Is I think a lot of people are always asking like, what's the hot take at the moment? What's the hot kind of curriculum or course or position or something? Because that's actually, I don't think that is always the best way to approach this whole career thing. Is like, hey, what should I learn by picking what's the most searched, most needed kind of. But still, I think it's not a bad idea to be at least some level of aware that whatever you learn is searched or not, or maybe you should pivot a little bit to a certain area where it's not just there's like 5 people in the world who actually do that. Like there's this like famous thing where someone does the line on the car on the side of the Rolls Royce. I think they have this like one line, and it's just one guy in the world who does that. Like that is obviously like not the best position that you should strive for as a job, basically. Yes. But yeah, so in terms of your experience in your university, because you mentioned programming not so much at the moment, what is the last few years that seems to be the trend in terms of the role that people want? Either directly they can do it in Bournemouth, or they basically talk about it's like, hey, this is something I want to become in the future, or something like that.
So it's quite interesting because students who come to university have very different perception at the beginning compared with what they actually become. When we have the icebreaking sessions for our first year students at the first day at the university, we asking them, well, who you are, who you want to be, and during these kind of sessions, every second say, well, I want to be an animator as an Pixar or DreamWorks or something like that. And then, curiously enough, some of them become anything but animators in big companies. So I vividly remember one student who wanted to be an animator at Pixar at that time, but then during the studies they went into Houdini and loved the way of like destroying worlds basically. So so eventually becoming a VFX artist, and that was nothing with the skill set of being animator. So the tool set is similar, but the skill set is totally not. So in terms of the trends, it's very hard to say because how we organize the courses, we've got the commonality for the first year. So the first year of the undergraduate course is the same for everyone. So we give the foundations of the pipeline, so modeling, texturing, animation, compositing, pre-production, and general computing as well, because one of the mottos of us is we work with computers, so our students have to learn how to speak with computer using computer language, at least to a certain extent. But after the first year, when they've got commonality, then they go into the second year. And so during the second year, they can choose the subjects, the optional subjects that's they're going to study during the second year. And because we offer a variety of the subjects, it might be from concept art and design and maybe advanced modeling and look dev to very technical disciplines like programming for graphics or procedural content generation and like that. So if they picking different subjects, they eventually shape their own profile. And what I can say now is that we do have some subjects that are more popular than others. But I cannot say for sure if it's because of students' interest or because they see that as something that's can give them a job. Mm-hmm. Because one of the subjects that is always quite popular is the concept art, because many students that coming to our courses love drawing, and not like they see themselves as painters or doing traditional art, but they see how the love to arts connects with the pipeline. But at the same time, concept art is it might be the discipline that is popular from our students' point of view. But at the same time, concept art as a role in the industry is quite niche, I have to say. So that perception is not always easy from the students' point of view.
I mean, to some degree, if you look into VFX, a lot of people love photography. It's like very common. Yes. Like in VFX, there's an enormous amount of people who love photography. But I don't think most of them are professional or want to become professional photographer. They do it more as a hobby. Some do it maybe as a side gig or something like that. Some do it actually proactively for their job. Like, you know, if you're a lighter or a shader, photography is actually something beneficial for your training, basically. But I don't think they're like literally like thinking, oh, this will be. So maybe concept art or drawing is also a lot of times more like a thing, like a hobby or expression or a stepping stone or whatever. Because I mean, even I did, I'm not sure if you did, but I did draw like mangas and stuff like that, or I draw my Son Gokus in the past and so on. So pacing and drawing and stuff like that. And I'm not doing that at all nowadays. But when I was like a teen or something, I did that. So I think some of them is maybe also just part of the creative part. Like you often see the same people doing the same hobbies ending up somewhere in the same thing, and not particularly like accountant or something like that, basically. The question is a little bit also why do you think there's such a like high dream level that you encounter specifically? Like people like come to you is like and say like, hey, I want to become working at Pixar, DreamWorks, Disney, ILM, and so on. And do you think this is something bad in terms of being so unrealistic? Because I know it, at least from video games, a lot of people want to make video games, who play video games, they want to make video games. And the discrepancy between people actually delivering and people just dreaming is, especially in video games, extreme. Like I've never seen this in any other industry or any other profession where I did, even when I did like media computer science and we did a video game project, basically more than half of the people who were like, everyone was excited, but more than half of the people were useless. Like completely, they didn't know anything particularly to help, and they didn't put the time in. Like it was literally just like, I want to make games, but I just don't want to do the work, basically. And so basically the question is, why do you think is that this crazy dreams that come along and not a little bit more realistic? And do you think it's negative in their like progress, basically, because it's too high of a goal?
So I cannot say about all the students in all the world who are applying for different type of courses. I know the students who are applying for us, they do some research about the reputation of the center and so who are preparing. So one of the slides that's we're using for the open day presentations, for example, is the slides about our graduate outcomes. So what kind of companies they're working in and who they become. And because of that, students to be applicants who applying for the university and do that research, they can see that, well, from that university, we saw multiple people going to work at ILM. From another university, we see people going to work in, I don't know, games companies and so on. And that's something that states the initial expectations from the course. So they're not applying for the course because of the title, but because of more elements, more criteria that we've got in mind. And I think for Bournemouth University, it's partially the legacy of us within the UK's creative industry. So we exist for quite some time. We exist for almost 40 years. Well, not quite 40, but 37 still. And because of that, graduates from our university are working pretty much everywhere in the UK. So most of game companies, most of VFX houses, regardless they are big or small, and so on. And that legacy partially creates well, high expectations for applicants, and also more responsibility for us as educators to keep that legacy, either become, well, stay as it is, or evolve as the industry evolves as well. So coming back to your question about the profile that students tend to become when they study and when they learning the subjects. I think at this particular moment, the role that gives the best flexibility for students is a 3D generalist. I'm not saying that it's the one that gives them the most jobs, but by the end of the course, many students think that if I become a generalist, I've got more better variety of roles to apply, basically.
Yeah, actually, there is, I think ILM has this. I'm looking if I find the video. Let me check. Oh, there's a YouTube video. Inside ILM to be a generalist, actually, the video is called. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one. And it's basically, yeah, it's literally a video about, you know, why ILM wants generalists, for example, to some degree, and why they're important. And so just, by the way, just saw a randomly person I studied with in the video. Yeah, so I think that there is this like some level of push back to the generalist, because I think the last few years was a big push to specialist, and just have this, like, you know, you have X artist, pure, lighter, pure, shader, pure. Obviously, there's always this, you know, stages of, if you are in a smaller company, more niche company, whatever, then you need to be more flexible. You have to have multiple hats, as you said before. You know, if you do lighting, you often do shading and rendering and maybe compositing in smaller companies. But maybe you don't do everything, but you cover often like the shot and the asset area maybe, or something like that. maybe a little bit IT as well. And I think that is normal. But at the moment you are working usually at Disney, Pixar, and so on, you are, maybe you work for months on the feathers of this one bird, or the shader of this one area, or the the animation of this specific character. So I think that is why it is kind of common. If you have the dream of like DreamWorks and Disney and Pixar and whatnot, then it often comes with this, like, on one side, generally speaking, if you want to work for them, you have to be the best in this area, and you have to be, which comes with, on one side, specialization to become the best, and on the other side, specialization to, that's what you will do, most likely there as well. But on the other side, you usually are not hired for your first job in this kind of area. So coming out of the gate as the only dinosaur like sculptor, basically, is maybe not always the best strategy, because if you start in like, you only sculpt monsters, that's it. You don't sculpt humans or plants or whatnot, you're just monsters, that's it. I think that could be, on one side, there is a chance because maybe you're the unique person and so on, but on the other side, maybe you take away a lot of realistic opportunities, the studio next door that maybe needs like a monster sculptor, but not 365 days or something like that. And so this is like sometimes a little bit the difficult part when people have too big of a dream, too big of these like Pixars and so on. I think it can be disheartening because there are only so many people that can work for these studios. On one side, I mean, Pixar literally doesn't hire people anymore. Basically, there are too many people even on Pixar side. On the other side, it can be also just, you niche yourself too much to some degree. Like, I'm a big fan. I'm a big proposer for technical artist, technical director. I believe there is a certain level of we don't have enough, and I believe that in general, even artists should have a level of problem solving and coding background, like, because this is a technical environment. This is not drawing. This is 3D software, which is not easy. But like when it comes to full-blown specialization, this is something where I literally would need to discuss with a person to know exactly if that makes sense, like strategically. Like, even if it's like, if it's not what they want, it's like, okay, yeah, but there's a life between you are here and in 5 years working for Pixar maybe, or something like that, basically. So yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, funny enough, I just looked at my own website. That's something I actually also do. I have in my home screen, and when you go over my Python courses, I actually mention all the studios that my students went through, basically, and after the courses and so on. Because at the end of the day, this is also obviously, you want to show success. You want to say, hey, when you study with us, obviously we cannot guarantee it, because there's multiple factors that come into, including your own work and your own, talent and learning and whatnot. But there is a potential chance that we give you the education that's good enough for a Weta, for a Pixar, for a Disney. And so again, this is like something I learned when it comes to marketing. You don't market a skill, you market an outcome. And that's very important, because no one, like, that is always so funny, because sometimes people talk about like Python like it's the end, but it actually, like, even I don't like Python that much, in terms of, I don't really care about Python. I want Python to help me do something, but I don't want Python to Python. Like, I'm not there to just, like, it's the same thing like communication. I'm not just putting words together because I like words. I'm putting words together because I like to communicate with you, basically. And I'm trying to communicate with you in a maybe sophisticated way, so I'm using more better interesting words and combinations and so on. And so that is the same thing. Like, you can always have the love for the skill, but the skill is oftentimes just an outcome that you want at the end. You want to learn programming because you want to build tools, build games, build automations, make your life easier or something like that. And you want to do modeling because you want to create a model, whatever, for a game and stuff. So I think that is also very important, that on one side, it's important to be practical on one side, but on the other side, also to recognize that like, you understand what is actually the goal that you are striving for, because learning programming is not it. learning modeling is not the goal in itself, because it's hard work and it's like you can enjoy it, but it's not the goal. Like modeling is just a skill that is in the way of the goal, basically, whatever that is, you know. And so I think that is sometimes a little bit the interesting part here to acknowledge. We actually have a few comments. Let's dive into that before we continue. What point of sophistication? I knew this will come. What point of sophistication ML tool development looks like right now for VFX in case of generative or procedural? We should see at outsourced models or trained on site / personal. Any comments from you?
So we can talk about AI in
yeah, just keep it short graphics. For now. We can maybe come back to it, but yeah, I don't want it to. I'm keeping AI on a leash when it comes to the streams.
Yeah, so my simple answer is that AI won't replace your job unless you let AI to replace your job. So, what I mean by that is AI is another tool that allows to do some stuff faster and more efficient than previously. But at the same time, we talk about creative industry, and in creative industry, creativity is something that AI cannot really do. So you can do the prompt to AI to create like a short film, but it will be you who will create that prompt. AI cannot create that prompt by itself. Again, yeah, we can talk about that in lots of different details. I would want to quickly refer to your previous point about someone who prepares themselves for the niche specialization, like doing creatures. And I think that's important distinction of university courses with smaller specialized courses, because at university we teach so many different subjects as a core part of the course, and also offering optionality that's also not prescriptive enough. Meaning that if someone wants to do very niche job like sculpting creatures, they might be able to do that, but at the same time they have to learn different skills, and in those skills they cannot get away with certain subjects that they can do the best.
I mean, to some degree, I don't know if you felt it when you studied, but to some degree, the more you know what you want exactly, the less the university will cover that for you. Because if you, like, let's say, if you know exactly you want to do creature modeling sculpting, that's exactly what you want, you don't want anything else, then in general speaking, universities are often too broad. They will teach you a lot of stuff that are not relevant to what you want, and actually not relevant to what you actually will do. Like if you learn now animation, it's let's say in quotation, waste of time. In a way it is, basically, because it has nothing to do what you want to do, what you specialize to do, and what you will do in the future, particularly. So basically it takes time away and maybe also motivation. So I think I think this point is sometimes the situation where universities generally try to be broader. They try to have these like strong fundamentals, strong flexibility to some degree, you know, because you know this and this and that. But I think the more you know exactly what you want, sometimes universities, if they're not doing exactly that, usually are maybe too broad, at least in my experience. What do you say?
Well, first of all, you talk about animation, that is user discipline. First, we need to define what is animation in this context, because
I mean animation as an animator.
Because once again, animation can be seen as not as a way of key poses and then find in-betweeners for the character. It might be seen as a tool for visual storytelling, for example, and in more broader topics like interaction, and we could think about multiple ways of seeing animation being applied in different industries, because animation is based on the principles of the animation that were created back in early 20th century by Walt Disney and his early team. The point is that the skill might be seen as redundant, but only if we look at the skill without thinking about the bigger picture. Because animation as a skill might be applicable not only for animation as a subject of study, but in more broader topics. And if animation was a skill that would be that, then why it's not yet that after almost 100 of years of animation being a part of the creative industry.
No, but the point that I'm trying to make is basically that when you know exactly what you want to do, let's say lighting, sculpting, whatever, then yes, I believe you should still know like storytelling. You should still know art and whatever. Like it's not just you know how to sculpt in ZBrush. That's it. Like you should. Your mind is only ZBrush tutorials and that's it. And we're not talking about in a way that you're completely blind to anything that you do. If you're sculpting for visual effects, you should know visual effects, movies, and the general pipeline of visual effects and stuff like that. It's not like you just know one department and one workflow. That's not what I'm talking. What I'm talking is literally like spending like 1 year animating or spending like 6 months lighting, even though you absolutely have no interest or no exactly. And that is where that's exactly where I sometimes see the too broad sometimes kind of be too on one side. If you have broadness, you can experiment. And I think that is maybe also what your students sometimes experience. They want to become a DreamWorks animator, and then they find out over time they actually like explosions in Houdini. Yes. And I think that is to some degree a good way to do for students, because some students just need to see it themselves, because reality and what is in their mind is often completely different. And until you actually worked on it, and like with video games, as I mentioned before, actually notice that you just have no interest to actually do the work, then you notice, oh, actually I don't like to make video games. I just like the dream of video games. And then you notice suddenly you can spend hours on animating and character, and like, oh, this is maybe my thing. So I think there is this like this fine line on one side. I think like universities that are more fundamental and broad give you the opportunity to play around a little bit more, because oftentimes you cover more grounds. Where if you do very specific courses or very specific online courses, oftentimes it's like literally like goal focused. It's like, you should know what you want out of this. If you do my Python courses, for example, you should want to go into a more Python for your artistic work, technical artist, technical directing role. And there is some wiggle room, but we will not discuss if visual effects is still for you or if certain areas of visual effects is still for you. It's more like you know what you want, and you come here to bring this as an increase of what you're already doing, basically. So I think there's this like different roles where I see sometimes the like online courses versus university kind of background like providing sometimes. And I think, again, sometimes I feel like people who know exactly what they want, they maybe benefit more from this precise stuff. Just, doing like learning from a Pixar sculptor how to do exactly that. And people who are, basically a little bit floating and I think I like this and whatever, I think they would benefit more from like a real curriculum where you literally go through the paces and try things out, and maybe, actually notice that you maybe don't know as much about animation as you thought because you watched 20 years of Disney or whatever, and then you're like, oh, actually, I just watch stuff, but I actually don't understand stuff.
Yes, learn or not to make. And also, I would like to make a point that in education, we're discussing how to make things, but also important question is why students are doing these things. So they studying Python in the pipeline. Why they studying Python? Why exactly Python and not another language? Or why they studying scripting in the first place? So questioning of every single skill that students are learning in the university is a part of the education process. I think. And for some students, that becomes clear while they're on the course. For example, for Python, not exactly for Python, but for scripting, for example. As I mentioned, we teach basics of scripting currently with Python, but it might change in the future. Basics of scripting during the first year, which is common year for the graduate students. And on the second year, some of the students go to the course about rigging, which more relevant to animation industry and technical to a certain extent. And students don't see the connection until they go to the course and find out that rigging in Maya is 80% Python. Rigging in different softwares like Unreal is 100%, well, 90% Blueprint, and so on and so forth. So subject specific, software specific, but still they find out that the skills they thought are not relevant becomes relevant because they exist and they connect in different subjects. And another important thing about education is not teaching the subject itself, but teaching the subjects with the context. So we mentioned the word pipeline multiple times, and that is something that we teach to our students. The pipeline is not just about the set of tasks that happening in a sequential way or non-sequential, depends on how you see the studio work. Modern real-time pipelines are very non-sequential, by the way. But we're talking about the pipeline as the connections between different departments. So you exist in the part of your pipeline at the moment. You can go to the different parts of this process, but at the same time, you conscious about what is happening before you, what is happening after you, and how your decisions that you're doing in your current job, in your current role, might be influencing decisions that are happening after you in the process. And likewise, how decisions that were made previously are influencing you at your current stage. And one of the easiest examples of that is animation for games, because when you're animating model for the game engine, the rig should be of certain with certain constraints. The animation style should be with certain constraints. The model should be again with certain constraints as well. So those who are animating, they should be aware of what had been before, and also what happens next after the animates the character. Because if they're animating not looped cycle, well, not the cycle, animation cycle, but animated like whatever, then on the next stage, when game designers would put that animation in the context of the game, they can find out that it can be used as animation for the main character because it's not looped, it's not the cycle. So stuff like that, and we have multiple examples, not only for animation industry, for VFX industry as well. And technical directors, I understand that it's very sought for role, and partially because those are people who might understand the pipeline the best. Because using scripting for different parts of the pipeline is what makes them become successful.
Yeah, and also, again, like a good technical director is also, depending on which specifically, but in general, a good technical director is also a good artist. Maybe not, not on the same level as the best artist in the studio or whatever, but usually I understand, for example, if I'm doing lighting TD, I can light the scene myself. It's not like that. But because I know that, I know the pain points. I know I understand what why something is, and what I can basically translate their thoughts better and maybe prepare better because I know exactly what the lighter wants, needs, or misses sometimes because I'm in that trench. But if I'm coming from a like complete pipeline direction, sometimes I have no idea that I literally had a situation in one studio. I remember I was doing pipeline TD, and then I asked for the last month to do lighting, because I wanted something for my show reel, so I wanted to do like the lighting part. And I sit down, I tried to open the shot, and I'm not kidding, I waited like 30 minutes. And I was like, what is going on here? And they're like, oh, this is normal. It's like, how can this be normal? Oh yeah, this is like what happens. It's like, and the first thing for me is like unacceptable. And so I started to kind of like, okay, dig the thing. And there was like multiple things going on in here. First, you know, some artists just accept the fact. They just, this is what it is. So that's what I work in the constraints of the software, of the studio, of the pipeline, of whatever. Where oftentimes like a TD or software developer, they're more like, no, I'm lazy. I don't want to wait. I don't want to do this. So let's figure it out, like make it easier. Second, obviously, because I had this role, I had like, you know, more flexibility. I had not the crazy deadlines. You know, lighters sometimes have like, oh, or an animator, like 3 shots per day. So you don't have time to sit down like for 2 hours and try to fix the scene or whatever. And sometimes you don't even realize that you are. And so, yeah. And so after a while, we noticed that there was this typical thing. One object had like a 10 million vertices or something like that unnecessarily, basically. And so the whole scene. And so it took a while, like a day or two, and then fixed it. And then suddenly the scene opened in 5 minutes. All the scenes, actually, because it was every time it's imported, basically. And so I think that is like very, very typical also of these like way of thinking, and why like TDs or TAs sometimes are so important, because it's also about the whole environment. It's not about me lighting, me animating. It's about, yes, but if I take forever because the scene takes forever to open, then it drags down the project, the production, the whatever. Like, and I think that is also sometimes the part where they like TDs also play the role of like understanding the whole picture. And yes, maybe we will lose a few days fixing that, which actually happened. We had to stop a production for 1 week to redo the pipe, like basically to redo the workflow, because I was like, we were wasting 1 or 2 hours per artist fixing stuff, because there was like always broken scenes. And I literally asked, can we stop the production for 1 week? And it was a big discussion, because, you know, we cannot deliver. There is another studio that is waiting for us, basically. And in the end of the day, we stopped the production for 1 week, and then solved the problem. And honestly, I think afterwards we produced 3 times or something like that more, basically. And that is something an artist would generally not do. Like very rarely I see like that. But that's because sometimes also because the deadline is so hardcore on their like necks, basically, comparably to sometimes people, but also sometimes they don't know a solution. It's like a mixture of different situations. And by the way, just the final point about that, I actually became a pipeline TD because no one wanted to do that. And I was like, oh, I like to organize, and it wasn't particularly interesting to me, but I was like, oh, okay, like I will do lighting in this project, and no one wants to like naming conventions and whatnot. I was like, okay, let me do that. And then the Python situation was literally, there was no choice. If you do anything pipeline related, there is no choice. There's only one answer, Python. Everything else is a waste of time, like Mel, MaxScript, TCL, whatever. It's just like, it's just yes, but not really. And so there's just no choice. But that is like what typical sometimes ends up. Like you end up sometimes in a role because of situation, you know, and then you find yourself, literally, I can tell you, because I did the Pipeline TD role during the Film Academy time, it was the reason why I was hired later at Weta. That's literally my job at Weta. I was an assets R&D, 8 hours a day, I was doing Python. Basically. And if I didn't do that because no one wanted to do that and I was okay doing it, you know, whatever, it would not spiraled into that position. Because I believe if I would have gone the lighting artist role, it would have taken either longer or maybe not, like, let's say, as high in terms of studios, basically. So that is also one of the many reasons that I always like recommend people to go to a certain degree of like technical levels, because I believe it just opens more doors, basically. Before we continue, let's answer. There's another question for you specifically from Mr. Gomez from the SIA from Germany. Question for Oleg. Do you believe that 3/4 years are enough to train/teach a student to become a generalist and find work directly after? If not, how do you communicate that to your students?
So in my particular experience, 3 years is enough, but it's not only about us teaching students. It should be students who very investing their own time, their own efforts, and very engaged with the process, because we teach very different students for very different subjects. And well, the thing about university education that we cannot teach one-to-one from the day one, right? So we got a group of students in the class, and when we're teaching any subjects for the students, we assume the lowest level of the room. So we cannot teach. Well, you know about that. So you cannot teach Python for someone who have no idea what the Python is, what the programming is, and what the algorithm is in the first place. So we have to describe to bring the audience in the room to the certain level. And for some students, it might be necessary because they don't have any background in a particular subject. And I'm talking not about a technical subject, I'm talking about pretty much everything from modeling to software skills, compositing, lighting, even working with the hardware like camera and so on. So, but students who spend some time to prepare for subject or multiple subjects, they can progress faster, and they've got enough time to learn more. They have more time to practice more. And the real skill comes with practice. So the more they're practicing, the better they become. So some students who know what they want to get out of every single subject they're studying, they can be quite strategic about that and eventually creates not just assignment that gets them a quite high mark, but assignments that can fit into the portfolio. So obviously on every university course, we prepare students for roles in industry. And at the same time, we can see that some students are well prepared by the end of the course. Some students are not. But it's not about the course, it's about students in particular.
And what is it about the students that in particular makes the difference? Like, if you can you spot that already? Because I have a few marks which I already know, like the success of certain people before they even start. Basically, you know, in the first like live Q&A, I already know like, okay, this person will most likely succeed, and this person will most likely not. Do you have thing? Because that is also like good for some people to learn from, you know, to know that certain attributes or certain ways of thinking are more successful. Do you have some of these?
So yes and no, because some students are very visible from day one. But at the same time, well, since come to the university course, they have attitudes towards what they're doing, but within their own small bubble to some extent. Because what university courses are doing as part of the curriculum is split students into groups and force the group projects, force the teaching not as everyone is in its own silo. They have to work as a team. They have to produce some artifacts as a team at a certain point of the course. And that's when some students who might be not as vocal, not as visible during the first year, become more obvious that they might be very successful when they graduate. But again, it's not always like that. And we had multiple situations when someone who was not like invisible, but was average during the first year and during the second year, suddenly become very proficient to the final year. Because one thing that's we at the university, well, we try not to forget that, but we're still forgetting that. That's the kids we getting at the first year of university degree just came from the school, and some of them not even 18. And mentally, they still can be children. So was it good or bad? We have to accommodate for that. Some age mentally quite early, some don't. And they can be as well equipped with practice skills, but they might not be good enough for working as a team or working in the company, of doing the role that's not they want to do, but they've been told to do.
Exactly, and I think that is something that was actually the first thing I was like shocked. So I was just studying at the Film Academy in Germany, and I did also had a lecture job. Another, it was kind of funny. I was like a student, but also a lecturer in another university, and you are a little bit in this bubble of the environment that you're in. Like, you know, it's probably the same thing for Bournemouth, and so same, like, you know, if you maybe go to another university or whatever, you suddenly notice like it's completely different, the way and whatnot. And what I was like kind of shocked when I started to teach in this, and it was literally animation, and they should have to, they made like animation films and stuff. They did like a small animation films together and so on. And the first thing that I noticed is I had to convince them to do things. And that was the weirdest thing, because in the Film Academy, everyone was like super self-driven. People were overdriven, like 100 hours per week was very norm actually for a lot of students there. You know, I was sleeping like in the university sometimes because I wanted to finish the renderings. And because it is like it is very selective, it's private, you know, it's already pre-selected everything already. So people who are studying at the Film Academy are pre-selected, driven people. It's not just, you know, as you said, just students from schools. Oftentimes they show talent already. And then when you come to a more normal university where people come from school, it's all about a little bit more about the grades. It's all about pleasing the teacher. It's all about following the structure and so on. It's less about your own drive. And I noticed like the funniest thing is like where people came like with their homework, for example, and the difference was just literally their perception of work was completely different than what I expected. Like their perception of work was like 10 minutes. That was already work. Like, oh, I sit down for 10 minutes. I animated this 10-second sequence. Why don't you like it? Like, praise me. And I was like, it's just shit. Anything under like 10 hours full week is for 10 seconds is useless, basically, you know, especially on your level. So it was kind of weird. It's this perception that I found very interesting. And so, and even in my courses, I oftentimes, I think the most important thing that I noticed is that, like, for example, first thing, you need to be able to ask questions. If you're afraid to ask questions, or you are like, afraid is most common the thing, like, you know, afraid in terms of, I don't like to feel stupid, so you're afraid. That is one of the problems that I sometimes see. People have a problem, but they're afraid to ask. That is one. But you can also have the other side, where people are basically want other people to solve their problems. Like, oh, I don't know why it's going, tell me why. Oh, it doesn't work, tell me why. And that is like the other side. That's more the student side, where instead of figuring out yourself and only ask when you literally feel like there's a roadblock, there are some students, they always wait for other people to tell them where to go, how to solve this. And I think that is oftentimes where I notice these students will have it the hardest in the end, because it's all about you know, being able to solve the problems, and being able to find your own kind of like interest, your own strength in it, like your own motivation. You don't need someone else to, like, yes, sometimes it's nice to have some deadlines, you know, like, you, for example, if you come to my courses, one of the things that I still believe is important, deadlines. Like, it doesn't matter how motivated you are, deadlines just do multiple things. They also tell you when to stop. So I believe even for motivated people, it's sometimes good to give deadlines. So it's like, that's something I would even recommend for people who are motivated. But sometimes it's like, you know, there's still something about like learning Python or coming to your courses where it has to have somewhere in yourself more than the certificate, more than the paper, more than a resume point there. There should be some kind of goal, some kind of dream in the end of the day, basically, that you are striving for. Because if you don't have this motivation, it's sometimes sometimes the students rely too heavily on the course, on the lecturer to deliver. And as you said, no course or lecture can deliver a career for you, basically. That's and I think that is one of the most important things that I see, is like people who are able to put in the time. And funny enough, I had like literally people, like very rare, but I have sometimes people literally struggling learning Python in my course. Like they just don't get the logic of like the mathematical logic, like this, like, you know, X, like characters equals something, you know, they just literally don't get it. It's very rare, but it happens. But at the end of the day, the only thing that I noticed they need is just grit, like just, okay, I don't get it. I need maybe 3 times longer than anyone else in the group. But that means I just have to put 3 times longer. That's it. It's not, I cannot do it. It just means my brain is not wired like this, or my past learning wasn't there. Like I didn't have the math background that I needed to the basics, abstract thinking. And the only thing I need to do is just as much time as I need, basically, and then I will arrive anyway. Like, and that is I think the most important skill. It's not about like some genetics or you had some great university in the past can help, but at the end of the day, it's all about grit. It's like, I want this, I have some kind of goal, and I put in the time. Like, and sometimes that means I feel stupid, I feel like a failure because everyone else gets it after a few hours. I need a whole week. Who cares? I just put in the time because that's what required to get there, basically.
Yeah, and so, well, for students, we're saying that everyone is coming from different background, and everyone has a different starting point. That means that someone will be studying more of certain subject, but that doesn't mean that they will be spending equal amount of time for another subject. So if someone coming from the art background, they will be probably easier with concept art discipline, but they might well struggle with Python or any scripting. And likewise, someone who's coming from the background of making games, they don't have to learn how to navigate Unreal Engine because they already knowing that, but they might find it very challenging to understand the principles of animation because it's not in their discipline. And that is something that we constantly telling our students. You are all different, and you all have individual journey, which is just the same. Well, not the same, different for everyone. And for different students, understanding that, one of the big challenges in not only institutions, I think it's everywhere, for students when they start comparing themselves against their peers. And that is understandable. That's a part of human nature, but at the same time is very dangerous because it might bring students to the never-ending loop of I'm not good enough. And whatever they're doing, they're not good enough because someone sitting next to them or in the same room will doing certain job better, more efficient, and so on and so forth. I'm not talking about AI. It's it's another level of anxiety for.
Yeah,
for
don't try
students.
to compare your programming skills against Claude Code, huh?
Yeah, for example, yes. So and that's absolutely normal, and that's something that we trying to tell our students is it's about individual learning journey, and it's not about partially about the problems that they've solved, but about the journey in itself. So we've got one unit research project on the final year of undergraduate programs, and similarly we have a research project on postgraduate courses as well, where students have to pick the subjects, research the subject, and produce the artifact, visual artifact, and the small certain type of academic publication about that. So not exactly at the level of SIGGRAPH and so on, but sometimes students actually produce work that can be submitted for SIGGRAPH as a poster, student poster, for example. But the point is that in this research subject, we're constantly telling the students that if your artifact is not successful, then the project itself can be seen as successful because it's not about the artifact. It's about the journey towards the artifact. And it's about what you've learned rather than what you achieved. And that thing about seeing the end goal at the same time, seeing the path that ends to end goal is something that's we're trying to do in educational setting, in institution setting. So talk about so talk about the question what you've learned out of this process. So analysis of the whole experience.
Okay, I think I want to address two final points with you. One is the discussion between like, or what is your thoughts about online courses versus university kind of thing, because to some degree there is a competition going on with both. Like, you know, both strive for students. You know, different. Obviously, some online courses are just like a few hours. It's not comparable to 3 years of, you know, but some courses are literally, you know, a whole year or 2 years or something like that. And then the second one, we address it as well. You know, AI, how does this affect students? How does it affect universities? Because same problem a little bit. You know, actually people come with the question a little bit like, hey, I can make a, you know, Claude AI teacher for visual effects, Blender, whatnot, you know, programming. Why do I need, you know, Alex Python for Maya or, you know, Bournemouth, some courses so that if I have like a personal teacher 24/7, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I think I would like to address both. So first thing, since, you know, I'm doing online courses myself, I have my own opinion on that, but just kind of just quickly what I think about. So I do master classes mostly. Master classes include live Q&A, include some degree feedback, it include assignments, it has a like Discord support and so on. Because I believe, especially on a new base, if you learn a new skill, you need you know, test cases, you need to practice, you need feedback, you need a little bit of mentoring, you need the feedback and understanding and growth and whatnot, and you have to build something. It cannot just be exam, exam, exam. You have to make something, models, Python code, application, whatever. And so I have a little bit of a despise for Udemy generally. I never bought a Udemy course, and I don't like them mostly because, and that it's the statistic, you can look it up. It's like the low amount of success rates they have. Like Udemy has a success rate of 5 to 10% completion rate, I think is the standard there. You know, and that's the thing. It only means they completed it. Doesn't mean they understand it. There's a big difference to that, and that is even worse. And that is, for example, where I was like recently looked into. Depending on the year, I had like 70 to 100% completion rate with people delivering an application in the end. And for me, that is what is the role of education. Like people come to me, and probably to you as well. It's like they pay money to get something out of it. They don't pay money to just get knowledge. That is not enough for most people. It's just not anymore. It's all about the outcome. Yes. Like it's all about, like, it's not the certificate, the paper that you give them access to knowledge. It's about, I come out and I have a shot at Pixar. I have a shot at this industry or whatever. So yeah, so basically what is your opinion on this like whole like online course thing? People sometimes ask you like, why should we go to Bournemouth, and if we can buy a course online or whatnot? Like what do you think so far? What's your experience?
So, I'm starting with experience. So in 2020, when COVID hit and lots of places closed down, we had to close university for almost the whole academic year because of lockdowns and so on, and do the course fully remote. So, and doing the course remotely quickly showed what we were missing what students were missing in the normal university education. And these are two main things. First one is access to the physical things. So studios, motion capture, camera, and lighting equipment. So something that they can work using not their own PC, but something that they cannot use their own PC. And the amount of the hardware the students can access is, can be quite different. And I mean, we can find someone who can buy themselves, I don't know, VR headset and the camera that allows for motion capture and whatnot. but it will be more like exception than the rule. And for the general students, they cannot buy themselves everything. So they, but coming to the course, they have opportunity to get first-hand experience on using the hardware. So that's the first thing. And second thing is teamwork, but not teamwork in general, but teamwork when the team is physically in the same place, in not exactly the studio, but something similar to the studio, when they can communicate in person. And when you communicate through online, emotions might be lost, quick feedback might be lost, and non-verbal stuff also can be lost. So the teamwork is more efficient when the team is communicating in person, in the studio, or in the studio environment. That's when they make the best out of that. And that's not only about the team itself. It might be about the students' studios when they can be in the same place working on different projects, but they can approach someone from their course who knows more about a particular subject. So we've got a small cohort of students who study rigging, because rigging is quite niche discipline, and not that many students. I mean, more now than in the past, but still, it wasn't a subject that students were picking very often, and so on. And because of that, those who knew rigging, they could be approached by multiple students across the course anytime. And because they answered the question for others, they learned something out of that, because very rarely students can answer everything instantaneously, because it's very subject specific knowledge, and so they might have to learn more. They have to research the topic that they didn't know, and so by answering the question for someone else who had no clue about that, and so they might not have clue about that, they learned, and another person learned, and so that's available only when you in the same space, physically the same space. You can potentially mimic that using Discord and so on, but only to a certain extent, because that experience of, by the way, how about me approaching that particular person in the other side of the room is not easy to do in Discord and so on.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, if you ever have a LAN party, I think that is the best experience for me personally. Like doing a LAN party online and doing a LAN party in person is a night and day, basically. You know, it's just a different feeling coming to a place. In the past, bringing your huge computer and your huge monitor, you know, over and stuff. It's just such a different feeling. And again, like I remember when I did like a hackathon, it's just like urgency. You just have this being in the same room. There's a certain level of urgency. Suddenly, you feel like, you know, you try to, and obviously communication is different. I think this will. I don't think this will ever go away. There was this like discussion about, you know, working from home is sometimes better, and you know, there's a certain appreciation I also have for working from home. But I also like notice, like for example, this episode, I'm pretty sure there's a certain level of dynamic and certain level of improvement of the episode if we were talking in the same room. I think there will be this episode will be a notch better. I just believe that. I absolutely believe it, and I actually experienced it multiple times. That especially like I can feel it, and then the listener and watcher can feel it as well. Like basically, because I can feel you more clearly. I can react more like millisecond time, not delayed, and so on. And that just creates such a different dynamic that from even on the screen, you can feel the difference a little bit, you know, and it can lead to a, you know, much better episode, much better discussion, much better feeling, and so on. So yeah, so where do you see a place for online education, and where do you see a place? Because you just went from the other side. That's the place for universities more, especially for your. But where do you like? Do you see a place for online education, and where do you see it? Especially like for courses that are closer to be a university, like, you know, like a 3 months course or whatever. I'm not talking like a 10-hour video course or whatever. I'm literally talking about courses that are literally has a little bit of a university structure, like live Q&As and 3 months, 6 months kind of stuff.
Well, it's a very interesting question because we're trying to develop our own online courses, but we always find it hard to sell that because there are lots of online courses already existing and having their own niche. So I feel that for online courses, the main area for winning is being very niche and very quality driven, because now when we have so many courses, it's very hard to find out the one that answers the questions that every learner has in mind when they start the course, and also teaching them what they want to teach, they want to study. So finding that niche might be the way to go, but it's not probably the question that I would easily answer right now, because of, again, seeing the process from educational point of view, from university point of view, when we have multiple processes, but still they are established and they've got the legacy. It's very different from what is happening now in online community for online courses.
I think the niche thing is very important. Obviously, accessibility. Not everyone can come to England. Yeah, that's obviously one of the things which you can, balance out if you offer online courses, actually. But I think another thing is a little bit. Sometimes I find it's relatively restrictive to work with universities, basically, because I sometimes feel the organization defines more the learning content than the specialist. Basically, and that is something where I feel like, so I have a relatively kind of soft example. When I did CG Master Academy, I did my Python for Maya there. That was my first thing. What I really liked, and I think that is also the purpose of a university in this specific case, is they defined the structure for me. They told me, yeah, we do like 8 weeks. You do a live Q&A every month, you do the assignment feedback and so on. And it was really nice. Like, honestly, it really helped me to shape my course, basically. And I would say my current course is like 80% of that structure. Basically. So I think that was really good because they can bring their own pedagogic understanding and what makes it. And I think that is really good. And I think in terms of the bigger picture, also the university, they know better what the course is, basically, and in a like 3 years time frame or whatnot. But sometimes I find it when I work, especially with really like university, public university and whatnot, they're so like focused on hitting certain milestones or hitting certain checks or whatever, and I sometimes feel like they sometimes miss the education that the lecturer actually wants to perform, because they're just focused on, oh, we have to teach them math, check, physics, check, some animation, you have to watch animation films and analyze them, check. Some of it makes sense, but again, like, there's sometimes I feel like sometimes constrained teaching exactly how I want. Like, for example, Python. If I would go to university, there's a way that I would teach it, and it will be successful. But a lot of universities will probably not allow me to do it in my way, basically, not because of my, just because it's my individual, not because it's not matching into their structure a little bit. And I think that is really the weak point that I sometimes see compared to courses where, like even CG Master Academy over time, like, for example, I wanted what they do on week 8, we always did, you have 1 week to make a final application in Maya. Python for Maya, you make a final application. And I was pushing hard. I wanted 2 weeks. And it was like they basically bent backwards to allow that, basically. But it was like so against the typical workflow that it took a while to get there. And now I'm doing 3 weeks. And because over time I learned what works better, actually. And so that was like the thing where I just learned that, like, that is better for the delivery of the thing. But sometimes the structure of a university is a little bit in the way that like an online course has not. The downside of online courses, and again, like Udemy is the example, it's a free-for-all. And sometimes specialized, yes, but maybe sometimes too niche that it's basically doesn't deliver actually on knowledge and just delivers clicks. Oh yeah, you click here, you write this number, you move this here, which I also don't like. There's just like there's not enough sometimes guardrails to control the pedagogy, because again, just because someone is good at something, like say a cloth simulation, doesn't mean they're good lecturers. And sometimes they need an institution or people to guide them to package this correctly in packages, in delivery and whatnot. So again, it's like, I'm not saying like the courses are always great and whatever. There's also a lot of failed courses online. But I think the difference is like, courses maybe sometimes too much freedom and sometimes they hit the mark perfectly, and universities sometimes too unrigid, too structured, and they don't give the lecturers enough freedom to say, I'm coming from Weta, I'm coming from Disney, this is what I needed, let's do that, basically, and let's the university shape it so it makes sense, but you're not in the way of delivering the Disney experience or the, you know what I mean? And I think that is sometimes the fight. Like, one is not regulated enough, and maybe one is a little bit too regulated sometimes.
Well, yeah, regulations is a tricky thing, and well, we have to work within these constraints because some of these regulations are coming not because of well, because we decided that or university decided that, but because we have certain timelines for the academic year. And these timelines are set by the government policies, and the timelines are set by the governing bodies for all the institutions in the country. So in the UK, we have Office for Students, and apart from Office for Students, which is government-led entity, we have certain bodies that oversee some courses. For animation courses, we got Screen Skills in the UK, which also not restricts too much, but sets certain of the constraints for the courses we're doing. But the biggest challenge for us, and that is something, maybe something for online courses to be more successful, is the speed for adoption for new technologies and new methods. So, well, again, we mentioned about AI, and we have some guidance for students about the coursework in AI, but as in our university, we don't have, for example, the proper policy about the software usage, about what kind of software they can and cannot use. And so for educational team, for teachers team, what we can and cannot do in terms of when it comes to the teaching and assessments, because it's a policy that is yet to be written.
It's too early a little bit to really define it yet, huh?
Yes, but it's still the point that some problems require solutions now, and universities are not ready to give the solutions, because it's not just about well, say everyone is doing ChatGPT now. Well done. No, it's not like that. It's about putting decisions that will be proven, well researched, and also sustainable to a certain extent.
Yeah, actually,
it takes time.
Yeah, actually, this was a situation that I had to face. Like, I think 6 months ago, I faced it first time, where people start to ask me about how much should they use, because they learned Python from me, Python for Maya, Python for Houdini, Python for Nuke, Python for Blender, and so on. And then as the question came up, like, can I use AI? Can I use ChatGPT to help me with the assignment and whatnot? Like, and so I just had this rule, because I was using AI enough for the last 12 months, 2 years, that I basically say in a beginner course, the first 6 months, no Google, zero Google. It's basically a rule. And for the beginner course at all, no AI at all, zero. And it's not because I'm against AI. I'm a little bit pessimistic AI. I'm actually using Claude Code in the end, creating an investment tool for myself, testing it out, see the breaks and whatnot. I use AI sometimes for personal stuff, helping me with emails and not. But the problem that I notice in the education realm is it's the same thing that maybe you experience it yourself, but I experience it. So I was always bad in physics in school. I don't know why, because in math I was good, but in physics just didn't click with me. And I remember there was like this one year where I started to, all the homework I did 5 minutes before the class from my neighbor, basically. And I was really bad, like really bad in physics. Like the exam were catastrophic. I have no idea what's going on. And I can tell you, this is exactly how it feels like when you code with AI or when you do solve problems with AI. It's you write from your neighbor and your brain shuts off. And suddenly when you are tested, you have no idea what's going on. And it's the same thing with Google sometimes. If we Google so fast to the solution that we don't remember the solution because it took us just 5 seconds to find it and just copy paste it and use it. But then 1 week later, how did I solve it? Basically. And so because learning needs friction, it needs failure, it needs all these kind of parts. And there is a little bit of this level. And again, it's not about, same thing as Google. Like I always describe Google and then AI is Google 2.0. It's getting to your search results faster, personalized results, basically. But it's still, there's a danger. If you over Google, you have no idea what's going on. Also, just because you Google doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean the Wikipedia article is correct. Doesn't mean the article in the blog is correct. Same thing there. So the basic idea is when you learn, especially on the beginner level, you have to be able to build the structure of the logical thinking, of the grammar and whatnot, in this case Python. And then the better you are, the slower you introduce like AI as an assistant. You are still in charge. You're still the better programmer. You're just at least the supervisor. And the AI is always the assistant, helps you with setting things up, reviewing your code, Blender, whatever you've seen. But you are always in charge in general, basically. And that is the level. But you cannot be in charge if you don't have this level of knowledge and understanding of failure and success, basically. And that is why I say that. And for example, for the advanced level, I would say use AI, but make sure that you don't overuse it. Make sure that it's always this, I made it and AI helps me to, tweak it, explain it a little bit better, whatever, basically. And that is my current position to that. So what is your position that you see at the moment, or how would you, like, what do you recommend to your students when they come to you and say, Claude for Blender, for example, we did an episode recently where I showed how Claude for Blender works. Not so much, to be honest, yet. But it was interesting to see how it is. Like, can you set up a scene with just, typing, hey, import this object, put a shader on it, and render a turntable? That was kind of interesting to see.
Well, we have students who very pro AI and very contra AI. And well, I actually don't know about other institutions. We found out only maybe last academic year, we have certain students who coming to the course, and the reason they're coming to the course is and not willing to do elsewhere, because in our university we don't have the stand on AI. Apart from in multiple modules, we not allowing for AI. So yeah, it's a situation in progress, and it's very early to say what will be happening about AI in a year or 2 years from now, even that. But as for my personal position about AI, you're right about comparing it with Google. It's another tool, and AI is now part of lots of production software. It's inside Maya, it's inside Houdini, it's inside Adobe Suite. It's pretty much everywhere to a certain extent, not always exposed to
and not always helpful,
users.
to be honest.
And that as well, but it's existed, it's in them, and well, it's not going to get out anytime soon. So if it's available, then why not using that? But again, the same as Google. While Googling, students should understand why they're doing that. And I think coming back to the topic of education, university education, questioning everything people doing. So not only saying what they've done when it comes to the presentation of the coursework for any certain subject, but why they're doing that. And if they can answer why they've got this way, and the answer is because the ChatGPT told me to do so. If they've got better answer than that, that means that they've learned something. And as long as they learning through the course, through the learning journey, that means that we're doing something right.
Yeah, that's like, a few years ago, I remember it was like, oh, because that's what was written on Wikipedia. That was always like a bad, like if you tell that to someone, like a teacher or whatever, and they're like, Wikipedia, what? Nowadays, it's like AI is like, oh, my AI told me to, take 5 pills per day or whatever. It's like, what?
Yep.
It's the same thing. It's like now you trust more Wikipedia, but you don't trust as much like AI, at least not if you have some sense. But you're like, you still use it and try it. An interesting thing, because you said one of the ways that online courses have it easier maybe is that adoption phase is faster, basically. And I believe that's true, but it's also, again, as someone who is a little bit not a fan of something like Udemy level of quality, I feel like always in the middle. Like if Udemy is basically, you can basically create a course tomorrow, like there's a new tool coming out, you can basically create a course tomorrow. And university is something that will take 5 years before they actually able to make a course about. I feel like I'm a little bit in the middle where I don't want to create like a course, like let's say, I don't know, cloud coding or something for Python 20 hours or whatever because the problem is in like 2 years could be completely different. The interface will be different, the models will be different, the quality will be different. And so for me, there's like, and some of the fundamentals will be different, like, some of the way you approach it, what it can do, what it can't do, whatever. And so it's like, I don't want to make a course about it because in 2 years or 1 year, I basically have to make a new course about it because basically I have to do it every year until it stabilizes. And so I feel like for me, it's like this weird situation where I will touch upon it. I will put some salt of AI in my courses in the next like this and next year. I'm planning, for example, I have a 10 weeks course and I'm planning to add like an 11th week. Basically, Claude for Blender, Claude for Maya, and so just kind of like the part where Claude helps you as an artist in Maya and Blender and so on, but also part where you are coding in Maya and Blender and use Claude, like like just like touching points, but not like literally a full course in the end of the day, because it's more where it is at the moment for me. I don't see it as a full-fledged developer or full-fledged like, oh, you don't need to learn coding, just use Claude. It's more like this sideline thing that you should explore, but if you overdo it, it will explode in your face, basically. And as an educator, it's like in this thing, because I also want to deliver fundamentals. I don't want to deliver the hot thing of the day, basically. I want to deliver evergreens, basically. I don't like to do Cursor tomorrow and then ChatGPT and then whatnot, like what comes out next week. I would like to deliver something that is fundamentally always the same. And then maybe, Python 2 and Python 3. Okay, I changed a little bit here. Wow. But I don't want to make a course and then next week or next month or next year, it's like basically like I can make a new course because the hot new thing is different, basically. So that is also where I'm a little bit like between the two chairs of, the being current and putting out the course that people want. And at the same time, having strong fundamentals, having enough time to actually test it and really understand it, versus like, oh, I did 1 month cloud coding and now I make a course for $200 or whatever.
But I think it brings to the quite important discussion about what is the main topic of discussion in the course. Is it the software or the principles that we teach behind the software? and to which extent the course might be not exactly software agnostic, but be potentially as agnostic as possible within the context of the software. So it's about something that we discussed not here but separately about teaching the software and what kind of software we're going to teach. And in our courses we currently teaching Maya because that's industry standards right here right now. But we're not teaching Maya. I mean, we're teaching Maya in terms of interface and how to navigate Maya, because students who cannot navigate Maya, they won't be successful in using Maya. But it's not the main point. The main point is if we're teaching modeling, then we teach what is modeling, what makes modeling, 3D modeling, using Maya as a tool. And if we need to use Blender next time, well, we're going to spend some time on the interface for Blender. It's different from Maya, but then the principles of modeling will be more or less the same quotes, the same topology, and so on. And it's quite important topic to think about when designing any courses, whether university courses or online courses. What exactly is the subject of study in this course? And lots of my students are using online tutorials as the references, as the bibliography, very often because they cannot find anything else. But at the same time, they tell me that, well, I found that tutorial that allows me to do that and that and that. But apart from doing that particular skill, it's not teaching me anything else. So using that tutorial once, not using that anymore. And that is quite a big challenge for all the courses, to be honest, not only for university or online.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I always believe education has to deliver both. For the focus should always be on the fundamental strengths. But again, when I talk about fundamental, I'm not talking about ABC fundamentals. I'm talking more like, I'm not talking just like look at the light and whatever. I'm actually talking about how to light. But again, at the end of the day, I believe a good course delivers both, but tries to avoid to be just a button click course, basically, because that is the biggest danger. And I always have to quote Alan McKay here, because what happens if you just learn button clicks? What if someone else can click faster or harder than you? Then they will get the job, basically. And that is the thing, and that is something you want to avoid. It's like you want to avoid getting education where you just learned what to click in Maya to get certain results. And sometimes the line is very small between that and actually understanding, but it is there. And if you understand the difference between why this is rendering the way it is and why it is rendering slower than it should be, while at the same time knowing which slider to change certain aspects of that, both, then you will go into 3ds Max. Yes, it will not be called maybe AA and whatnot here, and will be called specular or whatever in the other one, and will be mathematically maybe a little bit different. But you will still know that some of these where is the slider that I need, basically, to make this work? Because I know what I want. I just don't know where the slider is and the number that I have to put in, basically. And it should still teach you the slider. It should still teach you where to find it and so on if you learn, any skill. But in the end of the day, it's all about understanding why you move the slider to what number and what it does, basically, why you move that to that way, why you should reduce the vertices and the character specifically, not just because someone tells you a random number, oh, your character it has to be under 1 million vertices, and like, why is a good answer. If you know that the question, you can maybe make a character 2 million because it doesn't matter for this specific situation, because you understand the why. Or you can make it 2 million and you work with the shader better, so you can balance it out. Basically, that is basically what in the end is what I believe is good education. And you cannot do that in a month. You cannot do that like taking the hot thing and then testing it for a month and just pushing out. Because what you can do is actually just practical stuff like, oh, there's a secret setting you can do, or there's a secret prompt that you can write that makes it a little bit smarter or whatever. That is not really understanding how to deal with AI. Like, basically, it's just tips and tricks, basically. And I personally think this is like YouTube level sometimes, more like, yeah, it's nice, it's good to hear. We all search for tips and tricks, how to optimize our render, how to optimize, Claude code, what is it, how to reduce your tokens and stuff, which, Caveman, by the way. Thanks, Andrea, for that tip. But at the end of the day, and that is one of the things that I always liked about the university approach, is that it is fundamentals, as long as it's not too deep, but it is all about this, like, building things and not just learning to click. And that is sometimes the fight between the courses versus university. One is sometimes too shallow, and one sometimes expects you too deep, too broad to that. And I think there's this, like, they try to find the balance on both sides, basically.
Well, for too deep, too broad, we don't have enough time. So 3 years for the courses, or 4 years in case of some courses, is not enough. So it gets very deep. So it's more like doctorate level. But that's different set of students and different learning methods and skills.
We have here last comment from Raphael. Creators to be passionate about something. Whoever hits enter and calls it their own creates nothing. They've just found an elegant way to plagiarize the effort they never had the guts to put in. It's longer. AI doesn't create with you, it creates for you. It just spits out a lie in seconds and you sign your name to it. Whoever hands the process over to an AI is not an artist or a professional. They're just someone harvesting another fruits, faking dirty hands from the soil they never dug. Sincerely, sad shortcut. I'm a little bit less pessimistic about that. I think I'm a little bit. To AI, I have an approach of how I see coding and GitHub. We all copy pasted other people's code. It's not like any code. Like, there's no coder in this world who never copy pasted someone else's snippets and solutions and whatnot. And it's a little bit more of a, if you have a repository I can download to help me solve my application problem, please, it's more like give and take kind of situation. So I have a little bit the AI thing as well, but at the same time, again, I'm also have this thing of skill. Like, you have, like, just because someone wipe coded something, that's cool. And if it's helpful, that's also great. But I just made the experience oftentimes that they cannot maintain it. They cannot, there will be a barricade somewhere along the line, and then it will fall apart very much. And so far, my experience with AI is literally, it's a postponed failure. The more you use it wrongly, the more you postpone it, and then it will crash all of a sudden. Like, you can maybe, like, literally code an AI, you make a tool, but the less you know, the more you postpone the big failure in the end. Suddenly the AI doesn't understand the complexity. You have no idea what's going on, and everything is falling apart if you overuse it. And so that is my feeling so far, is kind of about AI at the moment. It's like, if you overuse it, you just postpone the big failure that will come, basically. But it's short term, it feels like a hit. I was like, oh, wow. Like, short term, I get so many solutions, so nice, and so, code and whatever. And then, but if you see it over long term, so in my experience, it always hits a breaking point.
Well, I think we're going to see more of that in the future, because, again, coming to the idea of Google, so at some points there was a role of Google prompt engineer, or someone who would put the right phrases in Google to get the correct results. And now, like 10 years later, we've got the same with ChatGPT. So the role of someone who enters the right prompt into ChatGPT to get the right result, not just general verbal diarrhea or anything that's people can normally expect from AI. Again, for AI, the main issue from my point of view is not AI itself, is inability for certain people to understand what AI exactly means and what the definitions are for AI, and what's the scope of using AI, what we can and cannot do with the current tool set, and also not just about what the current tool set can and cannot do, but what they might be able to do in a year's time or 2 years' time, and what it will not able to do in a year's time. So the simple example is about video generation that was not available like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, not just the kind of the tools we have now. But at the same time, those who ever done generation of videos or animations using AI, they can quickly understand what the system cannot do for them. It can do lots of things. The artists across the world now can generate the whole film in the style of I don't know. I've seen recently a series of films done in the style of a British animation company called Aardman, Wallace and Gromit, and so on and so forth. So I've seen these movies, but at the same time, I start questioning myself. Yeah, well, current AI system can do animations in this particular style. Can it do the style in something that which is not as widespread? Probably for Aardman, probably for Ghibli, probably for Pixar style or Disney style in general, we can get enough data to generate to be able to generate films in the same style. But if it's something else, what if we want to, I don't know, take cubists or impressionists painting style and then create animated video that looks consistent through the whole video? Or if we want to create stop motion that looks like real stop motion, do we have enough data for that or not quite? So it's lots of questions that we still yet to see how they unroll in the future. And again, one of the biggest questions that we might need to ask ourselves, what AI won't be able to do in a couple of years from now. And if we not know the answer, because we cannot know the answer what is happening in the future, we cannot predict the future. But if we identify potential ways of AI not be able to fill out some roles, then we can teach our students for those roles.
Yeah, I always say it's a mistake to not try out AI and see where it can help you. And I think it's also a mistake to over rely and overuse AI and become a slave to the process of AI. I mean, maybe you all also experienced a situation where you went out over the token over your plan, and you suddenly like, okay, for the next few hours, I cannot deal with this task now because my plan is now over. I have to wait till my plan refreshes or something. And it sometimes feels like in the old times when you was like mental ray rendering, when it took like half an hour before the frames rendering, you just like click. I have no idea what will happen. Let's see. And then half an hour later, okay, like let's do it now. Now it's a little bit the same. Funny enough, there's like the joke that I recently saw on LinkedIn was like, oh, we recently start hiring juniors again because they're cheaper than tokens for AI. Basically, so that is the flippery situation, basically.
Yeah, I heard similar that the tokens for AI will be increasing in price in the next couple of years. But well, we'll see how it goes. So yeah. It's very hard to predict the future.
Yeah, Gwen has the same comment as you basically before, Mr. Gomez. I believe when it comes to AI, we need to be very careful what exactly we mean. I would agree that purely generative AI with prompting isn't a skill, but using AI to generate alpha from footage or other utility passes to them with it completely different thing. I doubt anyone is unhappy with tools like Corridor Key or even Beeble or Flawless AI to create localization for lip syncing. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a little broad topic. I think for me personally, I just generally stay on the personal assistant and coding side. I'm not really doing images much or videos or all these things. I like AI as a support thing. Like if it does like YouTube translations, YouTube dubbing, I don't even see it as AI in that sense. It's just more sophisticated software kind of basically. For me, mostly AI is really when it comes to a person that I would maybe hire to help me. A personal assistant, a lawyer, a doctor, a web designer, a coder. That is when I see AI really be a part of these like structure where it becomes that. If AI is like integrated into something to make it more productive and result, I kind of like see it more as this more sophisticated software a little bit. Like that's how I see it at the moment, basically.
Yeah, exactly that. So earlier today, I heard in another discussion separately, I heard comparison with apprentice. So AI is apprentice for us. So it's someone who can help with certain tasks, but we probably don't want to delegate very high level task or like you don't want to
Mission
delegate
critical
AI.
tasks, basically.
Yeah. So you don't want AI to be a director of your film. You don't want AI to be a VFX supervisor. You don't want AI to be leads in any certain way. So it's not the job for apprentice. It's a job for a person, and I think that will stay.
Yeah, let's see. Again, I'm on one side, I'm interested to this topic. On the other side, I don't want my episodes being overtaken by the whole topic of AI. It's not the central as LinkedIn sometimes let us believe that it is. It's a lot of people now touch AI in some ways or something, but I don't think a lot of people are actually like it's essential of their lives at the moment. I don't think that it is that big at the moment, but I think it's just there. And we cannot ignore it, but the importance is sometimes a little bit estimated, especially if you just look at your own life, at your own work, if you own what you do. Some people just have AI part of their life, helping them with certain things, but it's not like it's this is like as it's not yet on a Google level, I would say. It's not yet on a YouTube finding the tutorial level or finding this level, not yet level. It's still something that is slowly finding its place, I would say, at the moment. And I also noticed it's an ebb and flow in terms of quality. I'm not sure if you noticed that, but I feel like first thing, the models change. Like one model sucks suddenly, one other comes out, and then even the same model sucks over time. Like I just noticed that the quality of the models suddenly just less and gets dumber over time suddenly. Not even in the same chat, just overall. And so even the reliability is a little bit hit and miss at the moment, basically.
Well, any computer scientist says that the term reliability when it comes to AI, well, basically there are two terms that don't belong to each other. So AI is always about the probabilistic methods, and it's always about being certain to the extent. So
but that is the
like
requirement, I would say. But that's a requirement, I would say, because if it's not reliable, it cannot be integrated in anything like it. Because I can see like personal assistance, even therapy, but reliability is a keystone of all these tasks. Like if your personal assistant forgets a task, it's useless. Like if a personal assistant that didn't remind you of the stream and you forgot because it didn't remind you, what's the point of the personal assistant, basically? It's the same thing. I just recently tried Gemini in Google Sheets, and I said like, hey, can you add this person to my contact list? And it said it does it, but it didn't do it. It's actually worse because now I thought that something happened that it actually didn't happen, basically. And then and it obviously would be taking me, and also the process very slow. I don't know, just very slow process at the moment. But I was like, it's still better. I just do it manually. It's just like I'm experimenting with it. I'm trying it out and see how much you can stretch it. But this is one of the examples where like Gemini in Excel spreadsheet, at least in my experience, horrendous, so slow, so unreliable. So Yeah, like trying it out more of curiosity, but at the moment, not in hell I would use it because it's just not working out. Basically, it actually costs me longer to use it at the moment than anything else, basically. But nice experiment. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Any final words from you before we wrap this up?
Ooh, well, we discussed a lot, and still it feels that we haven't discussed anything.
Maybe like
So
final words for like future students, like people who maybe are interested to go into this industry and they're like, hey, what is it now? Like, what should I do? Like, what's going on? Like AI, online courses, what would you say? What would you recommend, basically?
Well, I would recommend not fearing the future because, again, in the institutions and universities are not preparing for here and now. We're aiming to prepare the students of the future. So we're preparing for skills that might be required in 5 years' time, even though we don't know what the skills are. So we're not always successful at an institution's side of things. We know the limitations of educational system. We know that we are more bureaucratic than online courses, comparing with what we discussed today. But at the same time, we know what we want to achieve. So for those who want to apply for university, why not try? Obviously, for UK institutions, it's not the easy task in terms of financial investments. But there are lots of universities across the world that have similar values and might be not as expensive. So, yeah.
Actually, I studied at the Film Academy. It is a private academy, which is rare in Germany, but I actually didn't pay anything for it. So was funded by the state. And so it was like really cool, right? Because if I find like someone who grew up in Germany, educated in Germany, I'm not familiar with paying for education. For me, it's a very unusual concept. But yeah, I know that like a lot of countries have these, like especially if you go more private sectors, and especially visual effects is often more private. It's you rarely find it in a public university to have at least a decent one, where you have like really visual effects artists, public universities, very rare, basically. Cool. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Also taking the time. Love your background, by the way. This is always impressive. And then again, like that's one of the things that I also like, the access. When I was at the Film Academy, it just gives me access. Like at home, I have a laptop, that's it. But there I actually have access to Alexas at the Film Academy, to cameras, I had to green screens, to rooms, to guest lecturers, to certain guidance, to other people who are in the same kind of group and stuff like that, following the same project, same mentality, are in the same stage of life a little bit. And that can be valuable, I think, at the end of the day. And some of it overlaps with online courses. Some of it doesn't overlap with online courses. I think that is the fine line that you just have to decide for yourself. What do you value, and what are the things that you need? Do you need more guidance? Then I think university could be the better. Could you want more the fundamentals? I think university better. If you are more, I know exactly what I want. I just have to find the right course that just gives me the skills. I think then sometimes this like an online course, quality online course is maybe better for you. And that's a segue to what I want to say. By the way, just check it out. Bournemouth University website. You can see what's going on. They also have an event next. Yes. And also, oh yeah, do you want to say it quickly?
Yeah, can you just mention that if you happen to be in the UK, London area or Southwest, then why not coming to Bournemouth the first week of June? We've got 5 days events about VFX Festival, and we have quite a good lineup. So bfxfestival.com is the website. You can go and check what we've got in place.
Awesome. And yeah, and if you guys are interested in, learning Python, going into the roles of technical artist, technical director, you're welcome to join my master classes. We're doing next month, new one. We have Python for Maya, Python for 3ds Max, Python for Houdini, Python for Blender, Python for Nuke, and Python Advanced. And we are also planning to do something like Python ShotGrid for the production side, and we're also looking into some level of integration of AI, because again, there is something we should at least look into. But yeah, we keep everything real. Again, like we want you to learn something that you actually need, not the hot take. And I think that is very important. Oleg, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being in the chat and helping us out here. And I appreciate. I really hope that you find the students in the future, and also your online course approach is successful in the future. I think there's it could be different than someone making online courses or something. Online course from universities could be different. Like could bring different like parts.
Different challenges.
Yeah, different information, different ways. Like again, in the end of the day, and that's like the thing. Like I for example, this is the final thing. I know there's for example, I do Python for Nuke, and I know there's another one who does Python for Nuke as well. And the funny thing is, like, I never see him as my competition, because he basically does completely different Python for Nuke than I do. Basically, it's like his Python for Nuke is literally for compositors. Like he focuses literally, like I think on the first day is like compositing Nuke, like, where my Python for Nuke is the first 5 weeks is pure Python. We don't even touch Nuke. But then we just like really run through Nuke, because suddenly it's like, oh, I know everything that I need to know. Now I can do magic in Nuke, basically. Because his approach is compositor. My approach is technical artist, technical director. So it's more from the fundamental, from the technical side, where his approach is more, I'm compositing, what can I do to help me with Nuke, basically. And that is the same thing. And I think that is also how I see university and online courses. It's just covering different goals at different levels of education, basically. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and
thank you.
And wish you all the best, and see you guys next episode. Bye-bye. This website is here to share my experience, to take you along with me, and to give you an opportunity for a great career. Here you can find my blog with exciting articles about the industry, great masterclasses, and personal coaching that will bring you to the next level. My YouTube channel handles topics about a career in the film and games industry, being a technical director, and professional scripter. I'm also hosting the 21 Artist Show, which is a visual podcast that inspires creatives to make meaningful content to pursue their passions. Finally, subscribe to my newsletter to get industry insights and updates to new content. That's it from me. See you on the next video.